In this video, we're going to be going through the worst to first of the vintage original trilogy collection. Hi there Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk's Bounty video. And as I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to be going through my worst to first of the vintage original trilogy collection. Now, for anyone that's unfamiliar with this line of figures, they were released in 2004 in what eventually became the vintage collection. So they are modern style figures on vintage style cards. It was the first time Hasbro did this, and as you can see, we've got a lot of the main characters from the original trilogy, hence the original trilogy collection. But they are on vintage style cards, and they also arrived when you bought them in these sort of collector's clamshells, which kept them very mint indeed, all unpunched, and a lot of people keep them in these clamshells. I myself take them out and put them into regular star cases so they can go on my wall mixed in with my regular vintage collection figures. But of course, as I mentioned, this line is kind of like the prelude to what eventually became the vintage collection in 2010. In between, we did have the vintage saga collection, which I have also done a video on for my worst to first of the vintage saga collection. So make sure you check that video out after this one. I'll leave a link at the end of the video. Now, if you do happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to drop a like down below. That really does help the channel. And of course, subscribe if you're new. And with all that being said, let's get on to the first figure in the list. All right, so there's 12 figures in the line to go through. And in last place, 12th place, I have C3PO. And there's a couple of reasons why this one is in last position. And it's a bit of a theme throughout the line as well. And it's the card backs and the logos on the card backs. So this is essentially a Star Wars card back. That image is from Star Wars, and he's on the Empire Strikes Back card. And the fact that they made that same mistake in the vintage collection with VOTC is just astounding to me. Really, really weird that. And in terms of the figure, I actually do prefer this shiny one to VOTC, but to be honest, I really don't think that they've done much improvement from the original vintage figure. So if you look at this one, this is actually a decent C3PO. He is nearly 40 years old, or he is 40 years old, because this is the removable limbs one from the Empire Strikes Back. So a 40-year-old figure. And in actual fact, they never really improved it that much. He's got a sort of weird hunch going on, the figure, and I don't know. I've just never really liked any of the C3POs that they've done in the modern line. In fact, my son got one the other day, which was the one with Salacious Crumb, where he's sort of gnawing his eye out and everything. And that is probably the best C3PO that I've seen from the modern line out of all the ones I've got anyway. So, yeah, might be a bit unpopular, this one, but he is in last place. And this one, unfortunately, is in 11th place for me. And the reason for that is essentially because of the card back and the logo of the card back. They have him on a Return of the Jedi card, but they're using the Star Wars image. They have got the figure correct for Return of the Jedi. He does have the parting in his hair. And essentially, this Chewbacca figure isn't too bad. It's pretty much the same mold that we're getting in 2020. So it's not too bad a figure, but I just think the combination of the image and the card is all wrong. Now, obviously, this was the first time they did these vintage style cards, so I don't see why there was any reason they couldn't have got a New Hope Chewbacca on a Star Wars chase card, considering the other figures that we got in the line. Or if they were going to go with the Chewbacca from the Return of the Jedi on the Return of the Jedi card, they should have used the alternate image of this one, which I have actually as a vintage figure. So that is your Return of the Jedi Chewie. In 10th place, I've chosen the Imperial Stormtrooper, and much like the Chewbacca figure, the reason for that is because of the card back essentially. Nothing against the image. This is the original image that they used for the Stormtrooper back in the day, but he should be on a Star Wars card. And yes, I do realise that as years went by and the new films came out, they did have Stormtroopers on these cards. But essentially, we're still waiting for a Stormtrooper on a Star Wars chase card. We've had Rogue One, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Jedi. We still haven't got the Star Wars card. Also, as you can see for this figure, the torso has gone yellow. It isn't that much of a great Stormtrooper really. And for that reason, with the card back and the logo, it's in 10th place. And 9th on the list is R2-D2 with extension arm, which is a bit weird. This is, of course, the original image that they used for the Empire Strikes Back, and therefore, in my opinion, it should have come on the Empire Strikes Back card. He has got the sensor scope when you click his head, and it has a little panel on front of him there with a little saw that comes out, and the extension arm where he can talk to the Falcon, or he can talk to Cloud City, or any other computer system or whatever. You can see those bits there in the bubble. Now, the reason this one, as I mentioned, is so low in the list is because essentially it should be on an Empire Strikes Back card. This is one of my favourite card backs of all time, this R2-D2 card. It's an absolute classic, but for me it should have been on the Empire Strikes Back, and the figure with age is going a bit yellow as well. So for those reasons, he's in 9th place. In 8th place, we have Darth Vader on the Empire Strikes Back card. Now, essentially, there's not really too much wrong with this card back, apart from the fact that it is a New Hope image. And of course, this card back was the Darth Vader card back right up until the Return of the Jedi, where they eventually changed it to this one that we all know from the Return of the Jedi. I love that image. So, yep, the figure itself isn't a great Darth Vader either, in my opinion. He's got swivel elbows. He's a real sign of the times, really, at the end of the day. And the list of figures is getting harder to rank now, but they've got to come in some order. And Darth Vader, you, my friend, are in 8th place. In 7th place, we have Lando Calrissian. Now, essentially, this card back is exactly how it should be. It's exactly how it was back in the day. He's on the Empire Strikes Back card. It's the same image. He's looking very good. The problem with this figure is that, again, he's pretty dated, and it always had the issue of his torso going discoloured. So you can see this one's going from a blue to a turquoise. It doesn't match his arms anymore. He also has the swivel elbows, and if there was ever a figure that needed redoing in the 40th anniversary year of the Empire Strikes Back, it is this Lando Calrissian. I'm absolutely astounded that we didn't get this figure this year, considering the carbon freezing chambers coming out and a bunch of other stuff in the year of the 40th anniversary. And for those reasons, Lando is in 7th place. In 6th place, we have Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we're really getting down in the nitty-gritty now, so it's going to be quite difficult to rank them, but I'm going to do my best to do so. This is one of my favourite Star Wars cards of all time, the old Ben Kenobi. Fantastic character from the movies, and essentially this figure actually doesn't look too bad. It isn't the greatest of figures in today's standards, but essentially he's on the right card, decent image. Quite funny that he's got the yellow lightsaber, but that is how it was back in the day. And yeah, we're just getting down into the nitty gritty now. There he is, the original one on the back of the card. That's also the good thing about these card backs and the early days of the vintage collection, is that they showed you the original figure that it's sort of mimicking. And old Ben was a great figure back in the day. So yep, he is in 6th place. And straight into the top 5, we have Princess Leia Organa. Again, one of the most classic card backs from the original trilogy from back in the day. And essentially it's very difficult to rank these now, but this one falls down because of the figure. The figure isn't great. It doesn't look like it's supposed to be. It really does show its age. And again, it's another one that could really do with an update. But yeah, there's no doubt that the image of Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, on this card back is absolutely stunning. Such a beautiful lady. And there you go. As you can see on the back of the card there, again, you've got the original figure. And that figure is just an absolute classic. Quite expensive these days, but something weird about this card back is that it's got quite a green tinge. I'm not really sure if that's the same with everybody else's, or if mine's had a bit of sun damage or something. It doesn't really seem that way on the original one that you can see on the back there. Mine, perhaps that is the way they've tried to do it because it's looking through that sort of computer screen. I do not know. But essentially she is 5th in the list of the worst first of the vintage original trilogy collection. Straight into 4th place goes Yoda, and as you can see, he is on the correct card back. He is on the Empire Strikes Back. Amazing classic image there. That is just screams Star Wars for me. This was one of the first figures that I got when I was a kid, and the reason this one's in 4th place is for me is because even though the Yoda itself isn't a great Yoda, I've seen better Yodas than this, it's a classic hark back to the original version. He has the snake and the cane, which are the two accessories that you got with the original Yoda. You can see him on the back there. But this card back for me is an absolute classic, and that is why he is in 4th place. Alright, so into the top 3 now, and in 3rd place I have Boba Fett. And I do realise that this is the wrong card back image for Return of the Jedi, but saying that, they did actually do that back in the day. So he was on the Star Wars, Empire and Return of the Jedi card, and it was only later that they changed him to the desert scene or blue sky version of Boba Fett. It would have been nice for them to do that card back, especially with this figure, because this figure here is the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. As you can see, he has the different colour gauntlets and things like that. I do like this figure of Boba Fett. It's a good Boba Fett figure, and that is why he's so high up. So they've got the figure right with the logo. Essentially the image is wrong. They could have done that blue sky Boba Fett, but still a great figure on a great card back, and that is why he is in position 3. Alright then, so into second place we have Luke Skywalker on the Star Wars card. Now this guy had to be so high up the list as well. It's Luke Skywalker, isn't it? He's on that Star Wars card. This is just the card back to end all card backs in my opinion. It's not my favourite, but you've got to admit it is one of the classic images of Star Wars, looking out to those twin suns there. The figure itself, again, is one that needs improving on. Head sculpt's pretty poor. Soft goods don't look that good, do they? But essentially, this figure is, 16 years old now. It needs to be improved on, but man, that card back, just look at it, it's absolutely stunning card back. There it is from back in the day, the original figure there. I mean, anyone that was around in the late 70s and 80s would have most definitely had a farm boy Luke Skywalker in their collection. But for me, he has to be right up there. Luke Skywalker, the hero of the saga, and such a just great card back. But he's not the number 1, so who is? And in first place of the worst to first of the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection, or the worst to best, whatever you want to say, we have Han Solo on the absolutely classic Original Trilogy New Hope Star Wars card. There he is, and the reason this one is in first place, he wins a lot of my votes that I do on my channel, is because essentially the card back is just phenomenal. That is one of the greatest images that you'll find in all of Star Wars, but also the figure holds up in today's standards as well. It's actually a really, really good Han Solo, maybe on the slight skinny side, but essentially he's got all the articulation of a modern day figure. The head sculpt's not too bad. The paint works really, really good. And yeah, he would just do pretty well if you were to bring him out today. He does miss the hip articulation, but a lot of people don't like that anyway. I don't think it would really work on Han Solo, to be honest, anyway. I think it's just fine the way it is. But essentially, you just can't really beat the figure and card back combo. And for that reason, Han Solo is in first place of the worst to first of the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do I have them in the right order? Where would you have changed it up? Who would you have number 1? Who would you have last? And let me know why as well. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like, put a thumbs up on the video, because that really does help the video and the channel. Thank you very much for watching as usual, and we shall see you on the next one.